done. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. But, speaking honestly, I know that I do not have it all together. I was just telling my daughter the other day, I feel like I'm spinning plates and some have fallen.
Hello and welcome to Authentic On Air with Bruce Alexander. On today's show, I'm sitting down with Regina Joy Lane. Wife, mother, successful entrepreneur, and community enthusiast. I'm excited to see where this conversation goes today. But first, today's reflection. As you build or integrate anything new into your life, what role does authenticity play in your implementation? For example, I have started a new workout regimen, and it was important for me to scale way back from previous programs I have done because they were motivated by fear and shame, and they were very hard for me to sustain. I know what I want for my fitness plan now because I know how to honor myself better. Do you think about things this way? Why or why not? As always, I'm genuinely interested and would love to hear any interesting, surprising, or revelational insights uncovered. So you can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, or LinkedIn at Authentic Identity Management. Okay, so I'm pushing into a growth phase now. Regina and I have only had one real conversation to speak of, and she struck me as somebody who has it together. So I'm trying to step my interview game up because this isn't just my buddy doing me a favor. This is Regina Joy Lane. Welcome, Regina. Thanks for being here.
I'm so happy to be here with you as well, Bruce. But let me be the first to say I do not have it all together. Let's start off right.
It's funny. I mean, that's a really important thing about perception is that we all think that somebody's doing it better than us.
Oh, yeah. 1 million people. I can give you 1 million people who are doing it better than me.
Well, from our conversation, I thought you were doing it pretty well. And you've got some pretty solid success to say that you're doing something right. I'm
grateful for the things I've been able to achieve. I am an ambitious woman, so of course I want to do more. But yeah, I think I can look back and say, okay, I was able to get that done. I did that.
Yeah, you did.
Or, I was able to achieve that. And I am grateful. So I'm not one of those people that is like, just sort of this fake humility all the time,
right.
Like, oh no, I don't know how it was. No, I worked my tail off to get that done. So yeah, I'm grateful for that. But, speaking honestly, I know that I do not have it all together. I was just telling my daughter the other day, I feel like I'm spinning plates and some have fallen. Some are wobbly. I'm trying to figure out where I can get more plates. But I've never felt like, oh, all the plates are spinning at the same time. Look at me. Like I've never felt like that.
Do you think you would find comfort if all the plates were spinning?
No. What is that? I've heard this Brene Brown quote where joy is like the scariest feeling, which consequently is my name. Like joy. But when I'm watching this, she says it's the scariest feeling because when people feel joy, they're like looking over their shoulder, like, when is it all going to fall apart? Now, I thought that was interesting to hear, but I wouldn't say that I ascribe to that train of thought. Joy is my middle name. I do find a lot of joy in life. It's been a mental and a mantra for me from birth. A funny story that my dad named me Joy before he even knew I was a girl.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I danced around in my mother's room. I'm still dancing to this day. But I am one that I'm always going to be looking for silver lining. I'm always going to be trying to find the positives in some of the ugliest situations. And that's a gift I realize that most people don't have. And I thrive off of that. So joy has been a superpower for me. But yeah, definitely, I could see how having all the plates spinning at the same time would be a joyful moment. That would be like the ultimate pinnacle of joy for me. I have yet to experience that. So there's something to work towards.
I have a bit of a theory about people thriving in chaos that I do want to chase down. But first, let's get a little bit more backstory with you. Mm-hmm. If you don't mind telling our listeners who exactly you are, what you're currently doing with your time, and why you think you're here today.
Those are all 3 heavy questions. So let's, who am I? I'm Regina, daughter of Willie and Helen. Both my parents are from the country, so we always joke about living in the city. I grew up in Greenwood, which is just in the shadow of downtown Tulsa, on sacred ground. So I'm grateful for that. But we always had a very country life and lifestyle in the middle of the city. We had a full-fledged vegetable garden. So I'm a bit city, a bit country. I'm number 9 of 10 kids. So
wow.
Yeah. So I know how to adjust. And I'm a wife. I'm wife to Adam Lane. This is my second marriage. So I think that is a story in and of itself. But I'm so grateful and happy to be married to Adam. I have 3 children from a previous marriage. So I'm a mother, all girls. I've been a mother to 2 international students. And there are a lot of my kids' friends that call me mom. Even I worked at a school for a time, and some of them even call me mom. So I guess you could definitely call me a mother. But I'm also ambitious. I have dreams and things that I want to do, places I want to go, people that I want to meet. So I'm constantly on the go. I'm learning in this season of my life the value of rest and restoration and pausing. And let's see, who am I?
What you're currently up to?
What am I currently up to? Goodness. So I am currently up to running my own consulting gig. So it's Regina Joy Consulting, and I consult on DEI and women's issues. I also teach workshops, do some keynote speaking, as well as curriculum that I can license out, and also running a podcast. So it should be launching officially in this month. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that.
Before you go too far, for our audience who doesn't know what DEI is, would you explain that to them?
Yes. DEI is an acronym for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I really specialize in creating inclusive workplaces. So that is my passion, and I get to do it every day, and I'm very grateful for that. Just helping people get along, work better together so that everyone can feel safe and valued and heard in the workplace. And the podcast is Woman Every Day, which is a podcast that specializes in highlighting women who are mothering, who are ambitious, and who are also navigating relationships while trying to juggle being a parent as well. So I think it takes a special kind of person to do what we do, because we don't do it all well, but we're still able to accomplish great things. So that's what I'm up to now. And I think what brings me here today is hopefully in our conversation that you saw something authentic in me.
Absolutely.
I definitely saw authenticity in you, and I'm hoping that you're curious to learn more, just as I am curious to learn more about you. So I'm excited to be here on this.
You answered that question so thoroughly. You win that question so far.
I win. Yay. I love winning.
Gold star. So you talked about, the DEI. Is there a reason why that's especially close to your heart?
It is. I grew up in a family that was very diverse. I have both my parents were married before they got married. I have two brothers that are biracial. And then the spectrum of our family in general is very diverse. I mean, I had a brother who was married to a Pakistani woman. They have a son. I think diversity is beautiful. I think that learning about different cultures is a beautiful thing. So I've always been very interested, which is how I ended up with both a Chinese and a South Korean student living in my home. I think that we can all learn something from each other and that everyone has value if we take the time to know it. So it's been a lifestyle for me. Excuse me. And now that, when you look at the spectrum of the workplace and we spend so much time at work, right? Much more than, say, our parents or especially our grandparents. Work takes up a lot of who we are. And I think for a long time, we were not allowed to bring our full selves to work. Mm-hmm. And I think that sort of takes away from who we are to have to put on a different face for work. Now, up until, the last 40 years, the workplace has been predominantly white. And there are obviously still many places that are predominantly white. But when you are not white and you're going into a workplace, it could be very hostile. Mm-hmm. Uncomfortable. It can cause stress and anxiety for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes that's intentional by some of the people in the workplace to create an environment where you don't feel comfortable and you leave. But I think we all know that's illegal. And then there are some people who do things unintentionally, either through implicit bias or just other ways that we have about us that we're not completely aware of. So for those people who want to create a place for everyone to feel comfortable, which, by the way, diverse workplaces have greater productivity. They increase the bottom line. So if you want a place that is bringing the best and the brightest to your workplace, then you want to create an environment where everyone can come in and thrive, that people feel comfortable sharing ideas and collaborating with others in the workplace. And so if you want to build an environment like that, you call someone like me to come in and help dispel any hangups, any implicit bias that may be there. And it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. The first layer is just becoming aware of it in the first place. Right. So making it a safe place for people to be themselves. And it takes time and it takes intentionality and authenticity. Mm-hmm. And I think if more leaders could just acknowledge the fact that we don't have it figured out, right, that is the best first step to making progress in creating inclusive workplaces. That's
really insightful. And you mentioned both intentionality and authenticity. Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask you, so this is, as far as I know, the second leg of your successful career life. Like you started a business and were able to sell that off. In both this new venture and the previous one, how important was it for you to be intentional about building authenticity into your business as you were starting it from the ground up?
That's really good. I mean, right now, this consulting firm is really centered on me. It's called Regina Joy. A lot of it is birthed from my own experiences, being Black, being a woman in the American workplace. has yielded many different experiences. And so if I can make it better for me, then my hope is that it can be better for all. And we're not even talking about trans people who can't even enter into the workplace to begin with. So, I mean, like, that's a whole nother conversation. So it's like once the path is clear and clean for even trans people to come into the workplace and thrive, then we're really going somewhere. But to go back to my first company, RJB's Concepts, it was a marketing company that really started off as a stationery and gifts company, because that's what I love. I love all things pretty. I'm a paper snob, I admit. So that is how I started RJB's Stationery and Gifts. And I would design my own stationery and sell it online. As a result, I ended up, I'm self-taught graphic designer, started building my own website. So I became a self-taught coder, developer, website builder, designer, all the things. I know way too much. I can really nerd out. I mean, nerd out on some web development. And as a result, I started getting clients like, who built your website? I did. Oh, can you build my website? Yeah, I guess. Sure. I don't want to turn down any money. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mom too. So I was like, sure. Yeah, anything I can do to bring some revenue to this household. So after I started building websites, then I started getting more business clients who were like, oh, can you do my letterhead? I need business cards. And then that ventured and spilled over into social media. So before too long, I had a full-fledged marketing company. I had 8 employees and W-2 employees. Yeah. I just want to put that out there. Like, that's a whole nother ball game. I had office, and we had corporate clients who were paying us, monthly fees to handle all of their marketing. We'd go in, we were doing video. So it was really birthed from my own experiences, to a point where I even got away from the actual artistic practice of it, right? Because I ended up just sort of directing projects and had other people who were on staff. So it had a lot to do with my experiences and staying true to like what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. It sounds a little bit selfish, but definitely authentic to to me. And, because people try to bring other things our way. And I'm like, not so much interested in that. These are the things that we do well. We would dabble in a few things to see if we wanted to, grow in certain areas. But after we created this full service marketing firm, I mean, things really took off in a big way.
So was it how much it took off and you kind of lost the ability to focus on the creative that made you, in the end, walk away from it?
Really great question. So me walking away had a lot to do with everything that was going on in my life at the time. So I told you I'm on my second marriage, which means there was a first marriage. And, never thought I would ever be divorced in my life. I had married my high school sweetheart, and we had been together since high school. We had been together over 20 years. Wow. When we finally divorced. But I could see I was feeling very stressed, very overwhelmed, trying to run a business, take care of my employees. My marriage was falling apart. And you talk about falling plates. I mean, they're just crashing. I don't, even the poles that the plates would spin on, everything's falling. It's all falling. So at that point, it's sort of like, okay, I've got to do what's best for myself, for my girls. Something's got to give. And it's not going to be me. And it's not going to be them. Like, that I know for sure. So, like, all this other stuff can get out of the way. So when it came to the business, I said, you know what? I can't. I just had to have a very honest conversation with myself. I would rather give up this business so that I have more capacity to focus on. At that time, when I gave it up, I was trying to, like, can this marriage work? Can it not? Like, so focus on my marriage, focus on my kids, and focus on my own freaking mental health and peace. Like, good Lord, that was a very, very stressful time. And I sold the communications arm to our communications person, sold the graphic design to the graphic design person, and that was that. The rest of it, I just kind of let it go. I kept the web design because it was easy and lucrative. And so I kept that and ended up getting a divorce, which was very painful and long. It was a 3-year divorce and a 2-day trial. A 0 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend.
I definitely do not want to go on that ride if I can.
Oh my God, no. And and at the same time, I can stand on this side and say I did everything that I could to save my marriage. And also, I'm glad that I walked away. And also, even though it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, if I had to do it over again, I would.
So, really following down that path a little bit, how much of that decision had to do with honoring yourself?
Yeah, all of it. Because I was being gobbled up in the process, like the stress, the weight. So even, and this is not why we got a divorce. And, I want to pause right now and give props to my ex-husband. We did the very best that we could. We did the very best that we could. It just didn't work out for a number of reasons. But I definitely saw myself fading away in the marriage, and not in I need a more prominent position or not that. I found myself becoming quiet, tucking away. Like I was not myself. And we were not kind to one another. And we went to counseling. We tried to do everything that we could to save it. But it got to a point where he was going to live his life the way he wanted to live it. And I had a choice. Do I want to co-sign on that? And I choose no. I think I have a lot more life to live. I'm feeling squashed and suffocated and like I am wilting away. And so I had to do something to save me. And I think there comes a point in everyone's life. I'm going to speak for women. But I think there comes a point where you realize the Calvary is not coming. You got to save you. And I'm saying that I'm putting a lot of emphasis on me, but I don't want to take any emphasis away from my faith either. I'm a believer in Christ, and you talk about being alone with Jesus. Like that was a season where, I think about the poem Footprints, where I just saw one set of footprints in the sand. Lord was carrying me through that season. So, I'm definitely glad that I got through it. And that we were able to bring the kids through it, but everybody suffered through that time. And in a lot of ways, we're still picking up the pieces from that season. I'm grateful for growth, and that we have gotten further away. And I'm grateful to have met and fallen in love with a man like Adam. He is like, I didn't know I could be like this. Like, what in the world? So I'm very grateful to have a partner that, here's a really good example. And this is not a dig on my ex-husband, because like I said, this was just kind of how we grew up, very much in gender roles. So my ex-husband would work all day, come home, play video games. I would work all day, come home, cook, clean, kids, all the things.
Right.
Good Lord. It was like chipping away at me. Marriage I'm in now, we both work all day. I could come home, he's cooking. Or maybe I'm cooking. Or maybe we're eating out. He cleans. I clean as well. He probably cleans more than I do. I'm sure if he were listening, he would be like, I clean more. He did the grocery shopping the other day. Sunday. I did it yesterday. So there's definitely a shared partnership. I feel like I have a partner.
Yeah. So in the first episode we did, I was having a conversation with my wife, and she talked about the capacity to make herself small in situations. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing from your first marriage is that, I mean, you guys started as babies, basically. Mm-hmm. And as you both grew, you started to lose your capacity to grow as his shadow was casting over you. And some people have the capacity to make themselves small for a goal or for, an overall objective. But at some point you have to look at yourself and say, is this what I want?
Is this what I want?
Is this what I want? And and it sounds like you had to make a choice, and you really did try everything.
We did. I think, because first of all, we were both entrepreneurs. He had his own law practice. I had my own marketing firm. So we're both out here hustling. Like, that entrepreneurial hustle is like next level. And God bless if you have a spouse that is at home and kind of hold down the home front, that's great. But it was both of us holding, hustling outside the home, but coming home, it was just me. Mm-hmm. And that's not the reason why we got a divorce. I feel like that is reconcilable, right?
Right.
The divorce was really more about the vows that we made that weren't kept. And so at that point, it's sort of like, okay, I got all of this. I'm like out here hustling. I'm coming home. I'm hustling at home. And you're not even keeping vows. Like, it's a no for me. And I will say it wasn't a quick no. It took years for me to get to that place.
Well, I mean, being a woman of faith, marriage holds a high regard.
Oh my God. Yeah. So to even, once I'm walking away from a marriage, like, boy, like that is years and years of it's just not working well, like at all. I have tried it all. I'm a ride or die kind of girl. I'm definitely a long-suffering. I wish I weren't, but I am. God just made me a little bit different. So, I gave it all that I could.
20 years it's a good chunk of time.
It is.
So, being able to walk away from that and look at it in a way in which you appreciate it as a life experience, and you don't look at it as I wasted 20 years of my life. I feel like that takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not humbleness isn't a word, I feel like. It's like, but they definitely the ability
like some humility in there for sure.
Yes, the humility, that's what I'm looking for.
And, we were both well known in the community. A lot of people looked up to us and held us as a couple in high regard. So it really hurt too.
So how did you reconcile that part? Because that speaks a lot to you honoring yourself, as saying, I know that you all think this about me because I'm part of this couple, but I'm something different and it's not working for me the way everybody thinks it is.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, quite honestly, I just don't feel like I owe anybody any explanations, I'm in a private relationship. What you saw is what you got. So, no fake news over here. I certainly wasn't faking it. I loved him for sure. And still have love for him, but it just got to a point where this is not the type of marriage that I want. Mm-hmm. Our ideas and ideals around marriage did not align anymore. And so I made my split. And anybody that has a thought or saw me in one way and then was shocked, God bless you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lose any sleep over what you thought. I kid you not. People came to me in tears when they would hear the news. They're crying. I'm like, I have cried on my tears. Like, I'll just rub you on your back and, God bless you. I'm so sorry that you're hurt by this. But it was a good choice for me. I will say this. I think it's important. We've come a long way, my ex-husband and I. So much so that he'll find this funny. On Sunday, he came to my home and installed a new Wi-Fi network. Like, he went to the store to go shopping for us, my husband and I, and then came and installed it. It was a full circle moment. Wow. So we've come a long way. We can chat about the girls, make jokes, and have a good time. So,
and I know you can't speak completely for him, but do you think that your separation was something that led to a lot of personal growth for him as well?
Oh, for both of us, for sure. Yeah.
Sometimes it really does take being outside of this, this collective that you've been part of for so long to really be able to look at yourself and see how you haven't been what the other person needed.
Yeah. And for me, I was, like I said, letting go of myself. I needed to find myself. I was in a therapy session, and the therapist goes, "What do you do for fun?" And I could not think of anything. And I just started weeping. I was like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Like, I just could not pull it from anywhere. And I was like, oh, crap. I have completely let myself go trying to, support my kids, support my husband, because I was there through law school, through starting his practice and all of that. And it's like, I have given up so much of myself that I don't have anything left for me. And I love this. My therapist said this at the time, and I still carry it with me. He said, you can't pour from an empty tank. Mm-hmm. I know many have heard this before. He said, but you have to fill your tank first. So my homework was to, find something that I love to do and get involved. And that happened to be theater.
Really?
Long story short, my first degree is in musical theater. So I got back involved in the theater. And from that, I have now also started a theater company.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just from getting back to what filled my tank. So,
I don't know how you have time to also have a theater company, but that's really amazing.
It's all about the plates, man. It's these plates.
So now if I were to ask you what you do for fun, would that be the answer?
That would be one of the things I do for fun.
So now there's multiple things.
What did I say before?
Well, no, before there was nothing. You didn't have anything to tell your therapist.
For fun? Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So now you've got multiple things.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Listen, my tank stays full. But from a full tank, I can be a better mom. I can be a better wife. I can be a better friend, better daughter. Mm-hmm. If I have nothing to pull from, you're getting nothing. You're not getting the best of me. Yeah. So, yeah, I keep my tank full. I love good food. I love nature. Like, that was something that I found during going through the separation and divorce. Like, I didn't know nature was healing for me. So, going out to the lake, taking walks, watching the sunset, listening to the water lap against the shore, like birds, all of that. I had no clue. Hiking was never on my radar. Wow. And now your girl loves a good hike. Your girl loves a good hike. Okay. So I had no idea that was in me. But as I started to explore, trying to keep my tank full, now I know all of these things that I love to do.
Like, so I take it as my duty as the host of this show to really highlight moments and people who are doing the thing I want to see people live their life as. Mm-hmm. And for like one of them is enjoying it. Yeah. Like, so hearing you talk about like that you didn't know that you enjoyed nature so much, you know.
Yeah, it's this whole situation right here, I'm loving it. That's why you just catch me out here like, yeah.
So I took this over for my wife. I can even take, you know, this is her space that she's shared with me because
I might fight you for this.
Well, I don't take it over all the time. Record, I take over, and I actually write in here sometimes now. Mm-hmm. But she can come sit across from me if she wants to hang out, and and it's been nice. We sometimes we sit here and it's like we're having a podcast because we're just having discussions, and it's really opened us up. Because usually I was back in the office, which is when the doors close, like kind of let me work because I'm focusing on stuff. And I've also pivoted what I'm working on to where it's much more open to being conversive all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like, because I need to be a better conversationalist to be a good podcast host. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, come on, let's talk. Let's just practice. Yeah. Listen better. But yeah, you've done many of the things that I would prescribe to people who are listening to the show, which is kind of take stock of your life. Mm-hmm. Are you doing what you want? What are you willing to sacrifice to get, your goals? Like you looked at all those things and then you had the courage to actually take those leaps and leave a 20-year-long marriage.
Scary.
Which I don't want that for anybody.
Right.
Unless it's what you need.
Right.
But some people, it's what you need.
Yeah.
And for you, in that moment, that's what you needed. So it's like, I really love to hear that you were able to have that courage to do that. And then look at you now. So you are the perfect example of honoring yourself and then getting to see the benefits of it. And you're living such a fulfilled life now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm grateful. I can look back and I can say, man, I have learned so much along the way about myself, about what it means to be a wife, what it means to be a mom. I would love to think of myself as someone who is like keenly aware in the moment, but there are some lessons that you just don't get until well after the fact. And you look back and it's like, the dots start connecting for you. And you just have to be so... For me, I'll speak for myself. I'm just so grateful for the lessons. I'm still learning, still evolving as a human. And I want to be better. I want to be a better wife to Adam. I want to be a better mother to my kids. I want to be a better steward of what's been entrusted to me, be it work, business, clients, friends, family. So there's growth. There's growth, there's room to grow, and there's much to learn.
So how important do you think growth is to being authentic?
I think growth is essential to authenticity. Because if you're being real, there are seasons, every day, where you're like, you know what? I don't have all of the knowledge for this thing. Let's take running a podcast. I want to be a podcast host. I want to do it well. I want it to be popular. I want to share these incredible stories of my interviewees. If I'm being authentic, I am, one, acknowledging this desire that I have, while at the same time also acknowledging the fact that, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this. I'm starting off. And so if I am acknowledging the fact that there are things that I need to learn, and I'm willing to just get started, growth will come.
Absolutely.
So, and as you grow, of course, you're learning more. You're falling or failing forward, as they like to say. And you're willing to stand in the place of a student, which I think is very humbling to say, how do you do this? Or why do you do it this way? To learn, watch your YouTube videos, ask questions, and be okay. I think about Issa Rae. I love Issa Rae. If you're not familiar with who she is, she's an actress. She was just in the Barbie movie. She was the chocolate Barbie.
Okay.
But I've been rocking with Issa Rae since The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl on YouTube. Season 1, episode 2.
Wow.
I was there.
Go way back.
Way back. Like this, we're talking, it would have to be over 10 years ago. Because The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, she filmed that with her camera. And it's not the cameras we have on our phones now.
Right.
And I'm saying camera with her phone, but not the cameras that we have on our phone now. So it was really bad quality. And she was doing this herself. She wrote the script. She was filming it with her phone. And she produced this show. And it was so good. It was so funny. And each episode, I think it's probably about episode 7, season 1, where it's like, oh, we got some new cameras here.
Right.
We got some lighting. Like, it was grainy. Like, and just to watch her evolve to go from, I think there were 5 seasons, maybe 7. It's an odd number. I know that much. But to do all of that, and by the end, she's got a production team. She's rolling credits. I mean, it's high quality, even though it's a YouTube show.
Right.
But that got the attention of cable networks who were wanting to pick her up. She had the pick of the litter. And because she wanted creative freedom, she went with HBO. And then we get Insecure, which is quite literally The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's like evolved, but it's the same premise, awkward Black girl growing up, trying to navigate love and, work. And so, man, just to be willing to be vulnerable and say, I just want to, make a TV show.
Right.
All I have is my phone. Just being real with what she has and being willing to grow is huge and very inspirational to me. And look at her now.
Yeah, she's
like Issa Rae. Like it's Issa Rae. Like she shows up, it's like, oh my God, she's the queen, right? So yeah, she's on my list of people that I'm like, if I can meet them, I would just want to ask all the questions. Yeah.
So for me, the whole podcast thing was a quick turnaround because I had something to say and this platform to say it exists. And I'd been, I'd never thought of this platform before. My wife said she'd been thinking of me for podcasting for many years. And I was like, should have told me. I never even considered it. She's like, you love talking to people and you are good at it and you're smart and, you're doing all these things that don't really use your talents well. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's do a podcast then. And, because of the other things I'm good at, being tech savvy, being able to pick things up quickly. In the first week after we made the decision, I had made my first podcast episode. And that's, and, I know that there's going to be a growth curve. There's going to be things I'm going to learn. It's going to get better as it goes. Getting the audience is going to be the hardest thing for me because I know that there's content that so many people can appreciate. So many people can learn, grow, and heal from. It's just getting it in front of those people. Yeah. And that's the piece that I really feel like I'm missing is the marketing part. It's like, I know how to do it for other people, but thinking about it for myself, it's so frustrating whenever you're creating a thing, then you got to get it out in front of people. It's like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like,
Yeah,
but
it is hard.
I'm
To
excited to
pump
do it.
yourself. I'm excited for you as well.
I'm excited for yours. I'm excited to hear the first episode.
Me too. I was editing last night. So you talk about learning and growing. I'm like, man, in my mind, I thought I would edit it in Audition, Adobe Audition, but I ended up, through trial and error, I think I'm going to just be editing it in Final Cut Pro.
Really?
Yes. And then uploading that video.
I'm doing a similar thing. I edit in Premiere. And so Adobe Premiere. And then, I have the video portion and then the podcast portion, because I looked at Audition and I was like, it's not as close as I thought it was. Like, I know I've used it before, but if you're really trying to, really get good audio, I don't know how to
They have a
best.
podcast filter in Audition, which is why I was like, oh, yeah, we're doing this in Audition. And I have this new laptop, and the microphone on this laptop, I don't even need a plug-in mic.
Oh, wow.
It is so good. I don't know what it's a MacBook Pro. It's the M2.
Okay.
It's brand spanking new.
Okay.
I want to talk about. I spent on this little laptop, but it's maxed out, right? But I did not know that the microphone would be so good, and so because of that, now the next, which unfortunately, the first 2 videos are going to be SD. I thought I was filming in 4K, and I don't know how that happened. So we'll see. I'll be uploading hopefully today.
What I've found so far is that 4K is not necessary for YouTube.
Right.
Like unless
you need 1080.
It can be 1080, and I think it's more than good. It doesn't look grainy. And also, my wife told me, she's like, the video doesn't need to be great.
Right.
Like, people who are watching a podcast video just want to see a little action as they're listening. They're probably washing dishes or they're probably doing something else. It doesn't need to be great. And I was, because I'm thinking, I could be high quality. Like, I could really, because right now I've got a light set up, but it's just so the glare from outside doesn't make me look like a half egg face. Like, it was really bad. The first one, I was like, okay, I've got to balance this out some. But it's like, I could bring in studio lighting and really try to do the whole thing. I was like, it's really about getting the podcast out. And the video, like, I'm hoping the video allows more people to hear the podcast. Right. But it's really not about that. Yeah. It's not about getting more video users. It's about getting more people to listen to the podcast. Yeah. And so I'm just like, let it go. Yeah. You don't have to be perfect in everything. Just try to have a good interview. Yeah. Like, that's what I'm trying to be in control of now. Like, do your research, ask good questions, listen better, focus on those things. Yeah. Instead of, being paralyzed and not making a move at all because it's not perfect. Right. What is that? Exactly. This wife of yours. Yes. She's smart. She is. She's so smart. Do. She kept me. So, obviously. There it is. That's probably her dumbest move, is that she did not give it to me when she had the chance. You are good people. Well, only because she made me that way. She had to stay through a lot. She had, very patient. I've talked a little bit about my story, but when we first met, I was falling apart. Yeah. Like, I was I think I said that was about version 1 of myself. Mm-hmm. And, because everything before 18 is just gathering data and then trying to create a version. And then that first version was just so self-absorbed and also just terrified of commitment and being there for someone. And she saw through my BS and supported me. Yeah. She really has brought me to a pretty good version of myself. And I don't give all credit to her because I have done the work, but without her support, I wouldn't be, I don't even know if I'd be here. A good spouse can change your life. Absolutely. Quite honestly. So it sounds like you definitely have a winner. I do. Winner, chicken dinner. I know, absolutely. I'm not letting her go if I can help it, unless she tries to go. No. At that point, you need to beg, and that's okay. Yes, I will beg. I'm not above it. Yeah. I don't know what I am by myself. I do know what I am by myself, unfortunately, and it's not great. So now I think, I've learned and grown enough to where I could survive a life of my own, but I just know that I wouldn't be nearly as happy as I am with my partner. Yeah. Like, that's,
what's that line? Jack Nicholson, I want to say it's as good as it gets. And he says, you make me want to be a better man.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that line. When you meet someone that like, man, you make me want to be a better person. Adam's like that for me.
That's so good.
He makes me want to be a better woman.
That's so good. And that's, I think that's having something that makes you want to improve upon yourself is really important in life.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be another person for everybody. But I hope that people out there are trying to find that thing that makes them want to elevate themselves, whether it's your kids or your spouse or your dog or your career or whatever.
Yeah.
That there's something that is driving you to be a better version of yourself. Because when we just stay stagnant, then, what are we even doing here? That's, for me, the whole process of our transitory life is to try to get better.
Yeah.
Try to win at being yourself. It's like, am I the best version I could be? Not yet. Let's keep trying to improve.
That's good. I like that.
It's a great conversation so far. We're winning this conversation.
Yay, winning again.
So has there ever been a time during this, since your first marriage, as you've, started to really lean into yourself and, appreciate who you are, that it didn't pay off for you, where you kind of came into static because you were willing to lean into yourself?
Excuse me. That's a really interesting question. And I'm going to be a little quick in responding. I'm sure getting some more thought, it may change, but I am just a firm believer that all things are working together for my good, like all the things. And so, have I made mistakes? Absolutely. If I could go back and do some things over again, would I do it differently? Absolutely, for sure. And yet, it took going through those things to learn the lessons that I gleaned from that. Case in point, I am in a life crisis. And that's not true. I have just come to the realization that something that I believe so strongly in, if I could go back and do it over again, I would. Okay, so I won't be cryptic.
Thank you.
I know. I was just trying to set it up, So, man, through counseling and therapy and tears, if I could go back and do it again, I would not have spanked my children. And I just apologized to them about that. It was like a whole sit down, come to Jesus, tears and snot, like, I messed up. That was a mistake. My parents whooped me, clearly, because,
and it shows.
Country black people. Listen, I understand a few things. Yeah. So, but I think about this. So I love to tell this story. This is me, generation one, right? My father, I was born in 1980. My father was born in 1939. My grandfather was born in 1899. And his father, my great-grandfather, was born enslaved in 1847. So much of this trauma has been passed down through the generations. I've only been spanked by my dad one time. It is one that I will never forget ever in my life. 7 swats with a belt. I could not sit down for 2 days. We won't light fires in the grass anymore. Like, we almost burnt the house down. But where did he learn that? Probably from his dad, who I've been told beat him with a wet rope dragged through sand.
Oh my gosh.
Well, where did he learn that from? Probably his dad.
Hold on 1 second. That is my dog. Hey, Kate. Thank you.
He wants to come join us.
And I would let him if he wouldn't then turn around in 2 minutes and do the same thing trying to get out.
Oh.
And that's what's so frustrating is he went somewhere and then he gets there and he's like, okay, I want out now.
Precious.
Yeah, so, I mean, that is intense.
Right. And so, did I, spank my kids in the same manner? No. And in a lot of ways, I would think like, oh man, I'm not going to beat my kids like the way my parents beat me, but they got spankings. We had the little plastic rulers, the floppy rulers, like that was my go-to. It was traumatic for them. It was traumatic for them, and it had, did it get them to do what I wanted them to do in the moment? Yes, it was a very effective tool for controlling and disciplining my small children. But it had a lasting effect that I did not plan for, that it was not explained to me. We joke with my siblings. We're like, oh, yeah, we got beat growing up, but we're okay. But it's like, are we though?
Exactly.
All of us have anxiety, like every single one of us. And quite honestly, you talk about being authentic. I wet the bed until I was 11. Like, that's not okay.
Right.
Right? And yet, I would never speak ill of my parents. They did the very best that they could with what they had. I did the very best that I could as a mom. But I have learned over time, unfortunately, after the fact, there was definitely a moment when they were still, adolescents, where I'm like, I don't think this is working. I think we should stop spanking. And we agreed to stop spanking.
How old are your kids now?
21, 18, and 16. 16 in like a month. But the damage was already done. I regret that. I do. If I could go back and do it again differently, I would.
So, I mean, I don't think it's hard to say whether our parents regret it or not. I know that my mom and I had argued about it whenever I told her I wouldn't spank my kids. And she's like, look how good you turned out.
Right.
And that's like, well, at the time I wasn't really very successful, and I'd, been in trouble with the law, and I did have anxiety, and I was dealing with all these different struggles, and I hadn't even started to look at the big picture yet. Like, I hadn't even started to unveil those traumas yet. Now I know that I lived an entire life based out of guilt and shame and fear.
That part.
And I luckily, even before I unveiled that, I realized that I didn't want to spank my kids because it didn't feel right. And there was, there's a part, I spanked one child of my 4 kids one time. And there was a moment that it was like, this feels wrong.
Yeah. And
I've always tried to lead with my heart as a parent. And whenever my heart felt bad after it, I was like, never again. Because I got short-term results, and I still feel like I have the most distant relationship with all of my children. With her out of all of my children. Yeah. And it's not something I can take back. Yeah. I apologized to her almost immediately, and she complied about the thing. And it's like, but do I want to raise compliant children?
That part.
It's like, that's not on my list of qualities I want to build into my children.
Yeah.
It's like compliance. Oh. And so that feels icky.
And it's taken me a while to get there, and I'm sure there's more to unravel. And it's just like I told the girls, like, even though I'm apologizing here and now, this may come in layers for you. So if you have questions or you need to unpack something or say something, like, I'm here this is just the start of a conversation, an acknowledgement that I messed up. I got that wrong. And I want to take responsibility for it, and whatever I need to do to help heal some of that. Like, I'm here, I'm available. It's crushing. I mean, I'm talking to you very normally right now, but like, this has been like a crushing realization for me.
Mm-hmm. It's a heart hurt, like big time.
Yeah.
Derek and I touched briefly in one of our episodes, about being authentic in parenthood, and how, he sits down with his kids every year at their birthday and says, hey, this is my first time parenting an X-year-old or a middle child X-year-old or whatever. And like really kind of downloads with them and gets their intake. And I'm like, man, that's so wise. Yeah. And that authenticity, like that you're showing right now, is like having that conversation of apologizing, saying I messed up. I didn't have that with my mom.
No, and we'll never.
I mean, she could say it now, and it's like it's definitely too late now. Like you've had all the books about parenting still available to you for the last 30 years, and you've never said I'm sorry for. Yeah. You said, well, that was your fault because, and blame me for so much, and we don't actually talk right now. So that's that's a hard thing, but to me, my mother has been toxic. Yeah. To my brother, my mother has been toxic. Yeah. And so that's something we've had to deal with and separate ourselves from, because we couldn't, I can't speak for my brother. For me, I couldn't heal and parent my kids properly with her involved and making me still feel less than in my own life. And that was hard. That was such a difficult thing to do, was just not pick up the phone anymore, not try. Yeah. But I believe that's a big part of authenticity, is not saying I'll cut anybody off who doesn't appreciate me, but saying whenever this person starts to make me feel small in my life, maybe it's time, maybe this season is over. Yeah. And that's deep. Real. It's deep. And sometimes it's people you love. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I take my mom, she's sweet as apple pie. I mean, sweet. People love my mom. A lot of people call her Mama Helen. Like, she is everybody's mama. And she was always so kind, jovial, full of life. But boy, oh boy, when it's time to get a whooping, it was like flip the script. She's somebody different, And I was talking to my sister about this. We will never get an apology from our parents. They're very old school. My dad loves to say this. I've never been wrong. And even when I'm wrong, I'm right. He says it as a joke, but like, it's indicative of entire culture and generation. Bruh. Like, my dad's the same way. Yeah. He's
84. You're not about to tell him anything new.
Oh my gosh. My dad
he knows all the things.
He's still in his 60s, but he definitely, he's softened considerably with the grandkids. Same. And I'm really happy for that. Yes. But if I bring up anything from our childhood, like, no. Yeah. No.
I will never forget. I'm like, Dad, you did X, Y. No, I've never. I'm like, so I'm crazy. Okay. Okay, Daddy. Like, love them. Yeah. Love them. And like I said, I believe in my heart of hearts, they did the very best that they could with what they had. I just want as much as I can leave the generational trauma. Like, it should not carry forward. Right. And I feel like I'm in a mad dash to heal the hurts that I've already carried over.
I mean, but you're like, I love the fact that you're trying, because your kids have not had kids yet. So it's like, you've taken the opportunity before they've started to pass it on to at least acknowledge it and apologize and try to heal. Like that, I mean, that's all you can do. But it's a lot. It is a lot.
Well, but I'm like, is that all I can do? I'm like, is there more? I'm here for it. I'm here for the journey. The bleeding stops. Like, let's cauterize this thing and like see what we can do to heal the wound. Like, I want to get rid of the scars if I can, if there's time to do that. And I told him, look, I'm not looking for a medal. I'm not looking for a badge. I'm bent over here. Like, I am humbled. I am broken. I want to make this right as much as I can. And I don't know what that looks like. Like, I don't even know what the journey ahead looks like, but I know that there needs to be an acknowledgement that what you guys experienced was traumatic and it was at my hand. I'm not going to speak for my ex-husband. Like, that's his own journey. Right. I'm saying from me to you, I am so very sorry. I apologize. And I want to make it right. And I don't expect you to know what that looks like in this moment, but I want you to know that I'm here for that journey.
I mean, just being open to it is such a big move. Yeah. Like it really is. And I hope that your children are able to see it and speak to you in a way that, you know, that they feel that you're open to having these conversations, because having those conversations is where you know, it may not be the first conversation or the second one. It may be the 10th conversation about it where you actually have a breakthrough. Yeah. But just knowing that you can is a lot of time. I mean, it unlocks a new level of healing just in knowing that it's there. Yeah. So like, I really applaud you for, one, bringing it up and talking about it, because it's a hard thing to accept, having experienced the shame of, you know, spanking a child and regretting it. It is a shameful thing. It feels bad. And you feel like you betrayed the person who literally you put on this earth and said, trust me, I got you. Yeah. And then you didn't have them.
That hurt. That hurts. Yes.
I had to cry on my own show.
Sorry. No, dude, like, literally, I probably said, now stop it, because you're going to get me going, because I'm a weeper. But I literally said something pretty much verbatim to that. You all didn't ask to be brought into this world. Yep. And I did not honor who you were. You are precious. You are a gift. You are a heritage. And I did not handle you with care.
But you are now. I'm
trying with my whole self.
I feel like those moments, they could ripple out into everything that you've done. But by now going back and, you know, and taking responsibility, you're giving them a chance to edit their memories and say, well, mom did care. You know, it's easy once somebody puts their hands on you, it's easy to let that bleed into everything else and say, this person didn't care about me because they put their hands on me. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, like we would never like hit our spouse or a friend or my parents. But like, here's this beautiful, precious, innocent child. Mm-hmm. Oh, my Lord. Like, I see it all together differently now. And yeah, sweeping up the mess.
I talk about our duty as parents. And to me, we have one job. Mm-hmm. Like, we are given these beautiful, perfect beings. And it is our job to bring them up in a way that they can represent that person as well as possible as an adult. Yeah. Like, and you're protecting them from all the traumas that shave that person away. And whenever you act as that trauma, it's like the ultimate betrayal. Like, you know, and I'm not saying that for you. I'm saying, you know, dealing with my own feelings, you know, towards it is like, wow, you did that. Like, you had one job, and not only did you do it or not do your job, you went and did the other job that you're supposed to be protecting against. Yeah. That's hard.
Part of being authentic is being able to look at things truthfully and honestly and call it what it is. Yes. And sometimes that's ugly. And you got to be able to accept it so that you can move on and create something beautiful. Beauty from ashes. Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
My mom is one of those people who claims to be super authentic, right? She's, you know, well, I'm as real as you can get. Like her favorite phrase was, I don't write the news. I just report it as I see it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that kind of attitude is that often you don't take responsibility for anything.
Mm-hmm.
You pass everything off to being somebody else's problem, or somebody else created that and you're just talking about it. But you are creating a problem by doing that.
And you only see one side.
Exactly. And I really want to be self-aware. And like self-awareness is saying, here's what I'm not good at. Here's what I've done in the past that was bad. Here's what I'm still doing that's bad. I have to be able to look at those things and, and really face them and be vulnerable to letting them shape me and saying, like, I know that this thing is a weakness for me, and I have to know that, or else I can't improve it. You can't improve weaknesses that you don't acknowledge.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
And I thank you so much for sharing that with me. Like, I know that there are a lot of people working in the fire department, especially. I had this argument all the time about spanking your kids. Like, well, what if they're doing something damn? It's like, I don't care. Like, I don't.
There's a better way. And I might not even know what that is today. And obviously my kids are way too old too.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I know that way it may have created compliance, but I don't want compliance. I don't want obedient children. Mm-hmm. Like, I want resourceful and authentic thinkers. I want people who can provide joy and sustenance and fulfillment in their own life. And you don't do that by complying and being obedient. You do it by asking questions and, and figuring things out and strategizing and, really working through problems. Like, none of that was teaching that.
Yeah.
So if it's not really serving that purpose, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
So I'm still working on it, still trying to figure out what you do whenever your kids are not doing what you want them to do. And, we went through a phase where it was like, all right, if your character is going to be weak, we're going to build your wadi. And so it was like 15 push-ups, you're annoying your sister to no end. That was okay, but it still felt a little punitive, a little too heavy on the shame guilt from their reaction. Yeah. I still believe in it sometimes because I still don't have anything better. Mm-hmm. Like, I wish that there was like some system that somebody figured out. It's like, plug in this system.
Parenting. That'd be great.
I've read several of them, and they say, this is what your kid is. This is how you nurture your child. And, whenever things are going wrong, if you just talk to them, it's like, that's not really true. You can talk to them and they will maybe not do it again. But when a child is doing something that's driving you crazy, you can try to feed them, give them, emotional support, try to figure out if something going wrong with them. But sometimes they're just in a way, and you can't just let it continue because there's other people in the house who are sacrificing themselves for them to be that way. And that's where the parenting books fail for me, is because they almost exist in a vacuum, or it's like there's one kid and this one kid is making all the other kids suffer. Now, what do I do now? There's probably the book. I just haven't found the book.
Yeah. I don't think it's been written yet. No one's cracked the code.
I wish they would. I really wish they would.
Yeah. And then, it evolves, I think, depending on the culture. American culture is very interesting, especially right now. We've got social media and airbrushed pictures, and it's a very sexual, sex-driven culture, and drugs, and
hypersexualized,
very hypersexual. So there's a lot of emphasis on that, and not really valuing humans. I mean, so those are some of the, negative things. At the same time, we're in a very innovative culture, lots of ideas and technology, and some of these things can be really great. And so it's hard to try and find a path that you want to build for your child. And yet and still, I don't get to decide which path my kids take.
Oh my gosh. That's so hard.
I do not get to decide. This is a true story. Today is Tuesday. So it was Sunday. Was it Sunday? It was Sunday night that we're having a talk with my oldest daughter. she moved home a few months ago because she was going to transfer from OU to UCO. Mm-hmm. And just Sunday night, so that's been the plan. But just Sunday night, she's like, yeah, I think either I go back to Norman and go back to OU or take another semester off. And I'm like, what happened to the plan? And it's like, okay, I have to back up. This is not my life. Like in the middle of the conversation, I'm like, let me back up. I'm over here projecting.
Wow. And that's so hard. Wow.
It is difficult.
Talk about self-awareness.
Man. Well, I mean, I had to, and I told her, I said, let me just stop right here. Like whatever you need, like if school is too much right now, you want to take some time
out. Okay. So we can pick back up now. Had a little bit of a technical difficulty there. So you were saying, I just listened back to it. You were talking about projecting your vision on your child.
Yeah. So, mid-conversation, as she's switching gears, she was supposed to be going from from OU to UCO, and she was going to stay at home, and I thought we had a plan, and she's like, I want to do something different, and I could hear myself sort of projecting what I wanted and what I thought her path should be. And I had to stop myself mid conversation just to pull back and say essentially, whatever you need during this season, like I trust you to make the best decisions for your life. And if you need some support, we are here to support you. And together, we came up with a plan. But it wasn't my plan. And I did not push my plan. And that's a hard thing to do as a parent. But also, and she loves to throw this in my face, and she is really good at this. She says, Mom, trust your parenting.
Oof. How dare you?
The audacity to put that in my face. Okay. All right. She was like, do you not trust your own parenting? I'm your child. You raised me. I'm like, man, okay. Let me back up. That's hard. Yeah. It's hard. So, she's going back to OU.
Boomer sooner. So, I mean, I'm happy.
Well, that's my alma mater twice over. But I've also let them know, because, OU fans they can be hardcore. So I've let all of my kids know, like, yes, OU fan, big OU fan. Like, that's my alma mater. That's my home base. But I will support you wherever you go, even if it's that other university in Stillwater. I will put on some orange and black.
I'm okay with that one. The other orange one, I would have.
Which other orange one? Oh, yeah, that place.
That would be a problem.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Is that like it? I'm like, oh, that college does not exist for our family. Like,
it is so hard to get into that school. They do not like Oklahoma students.
Well, good. We don't like them either. That's okay.
One of my Chinese babies, she was trying to get in there. And they just, historically, having worked at a high school, they just historically do not accept a lot of, it's hard to get in anyway, even as a Texas resident, but they don't accept a lot of outsiders. Just interesting. And to this day, I don't know anybody personally that graduated from there.
And I can say I have the pleasure of not knowing anybody personally either, because we might fight. So talking about giving space for your daughter to honor herself. Mm-hmm. I mean, that, for one, it's a big self-aware move, but where do we start to separate authenticity from ourself into someone we created? Like, it's really easy to slip into dreaming through our children.
Yeah.
I've done it myself, and it was a hard thing to break whenever they went the other way.
Yeah, letting go is hard. I think if I had practiced it along the way, I would probably be better prepared for having a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old. But I get to learn from my mistakes and practice on the 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And she is in a space where she's starting to make her own decisions. And this is a safe place to do it, right? It's a safe age. She still is at home and has the safety net of 3 parents who are, here to support you along the way. And so starting to let her make some decisions on her own. And some of those things I'm like, I can see the consequences coming from that, but okay, I'm going to let you do that. And some of them I think I know, but I really don't.
Right.
And then there are some things that just surprise me in the best way. Like I'm learning things about her. She's learning things about herself. And I'm learning new ways of doing things by watching her. Once again, learning and growing. So I think at a certain point, you just have to start letting go. Kind of 16 is a good age. I mean, I'm sure some people would argue before. I'm new to this, not true to this. But then, especially this college area is a good space for them to learn and grow and fall and get back up and learn from those mistakes and hopefully grow and fly from there.
Absolutely. And I want to echo that sentiment because I went into college having had my life run for me. All the decisions were out of my hands. I was not like an extremely controlled child because I did what I was supposed to do. Like I made good grades. I was, taking part in all the school activities, was in extracurriculars. So there wasn't a whole lot of like, no, you can't do that. But I didn't make the decision to do any of that myself. Gotcha. I was just shepherded from thing to thing by my mom or my dad or my stepdad. Like they told me, hey, here's the things you're doing. And I just was okay. And I got to college and that void was massive. And instead of learning to just step up and do it myself, I let people who were they didn't have my best interest at heart at all start making decisions for me because I was so used to not being in control of the wheel. And I got into trouble. Like I got kicked out of OU. I went to jail. I did a lot of things that weren't true to myself because I just let other people make the decisions because I had no practice doing it. So that's something I want to try to avoid for my children is that power void of somebody controlling your life. I want them to be in control of their lives from early on, but also feel like they have guidance that they can trust and they can still come back to.
Yeah.
I don't want them to be afraid to pick up the phone and call me. That's one of the biggest things I got from my own childhood is that I don't remember a time that I was ever in trouble that I didn't fear calling my parents. It wasn't like my dad could help me with this. Yeah. I was like, man, I have to call my dad and tell him about this. And I'm going to get, there was all these other thoughts that were never like, he could help me figure this out. And that's what I want to be for my kids is my dad will help me figure this out.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's good. That's the goal. And it's not a bad one. I don't know where I'm at. Definitely my kids have called me in the time of trouble. I don't know that they've called me every time.
Right.
And I've shared with them, like, I don't have to be that trusted adult in your life. I want to be, but at the end of the day, I just want you to have one. I remember telling my oldest, like, your only counsel can't be yourself or your friends. Right. Like, that's it. Like,
it's a small sample.
Diversify, baby girl. Yeah. You got to diversify just so you can, see things from different perspectives, but get some trusted adults in your life. And I think she definitely has some.
I'm jealous. Like, it's like you say that and I can see how that's really good advice. I'm like, I want to be that person. Don't call somebody else.
Oh, like, of course.
Call me, please.
Please
let me be your trusted counsel.
Yeah, I definitely want to be that person. And And sometimes I am. And even when those moments come, I'm sure if they're listening, they're laughing. I have this thing that I do where they're like, Mom, prepare yourself. And I'm like, okay, great. Give me a moment. And it's like, all right, I'm ready,
Yeah.
Because, it may not be good news that I'm hearing. Like, we might be in a pickle jar and we need to figure out how to get out the pickle jar. And it's like, okay, all right, I'm ready. Or sometimes they'll say, okay, I'm having this problem. I'm like, okay, hold on, give me a moment. And I have to go through all the things. They're coming to you for help. This is a good thing. This is not an uncommon challenge. Like,
Right.
And like, all right, I'm ready. And sometimes I have to I said, let me go into girlfriend mode. Just because if I go into mama mode, I'm going to be like, what are you doing? I can't believe, but I can't. I want them to trust me. I want them to come to me. And I want to make sure that they're getting good counsel. And so if they're willing to share and be open, I think that's a good thing. Sometimes we might need to prepare ourselves, take a pause.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, yeah.
Well, I think this has been a very insightful conversation. And I could keep talking all day, but for one, I have to edit that. And that's too much
Nobody
work.
wants to edit the wrong podcast.
But for people who liked this conversation and want to hear more of you, where can they find out more about Regina Joy Lane?
This is really hard. So pen and paper, reginajoy.com.
Oh, that's super hard.
So hard. I'm telling you. But reginajoy.com. Everything's there. Social medias, services provided, newsletter, all the things.
Excellent. And you've got your podcast coming?
Podcast, yes. So be looking for that to debut second week of August. And right now we'll have new episodes every 2 weeks until I get my feet under me.
It happens quick.
Yes. And get a nice flow of editing and all of that. I would love to do it every week.
I think that this episode should air the week after you air.
Oh, perfect.
So I think that, if you want to send people this way, it's like, if you enjoyed listening, go listen to me again on
Yes. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more from me at the Woman Everyday podcast. If you want to learn more about that, reginajoy.com/podcast.
Ooh, love it. Well, Regina, thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and check out earlier episodes as well to help support the future creation of great content. You can also follow me at Authentic Identity Management on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and LinkedIn. Our YouTube channel is Authentic Bruce on YouTube. That's all one word. We will have the full conversation from today up there, unfiltered, uncut. So you can see all of our little snafus. By our, I mean mine. And finally, if you are struggling to show up as yourself in your content, your brand, or your life, I would love to help you. Authentic Identity Management does brand coaching to help you align yourself with the identity you want to share with the world. It's exhausting to live someone else's life. Live authentically and access the potential that belongs only to you. You can contact me on social or email me at bruce@AuthenticIdentityManagement.com for a free 30-minute consultation. I'm just going to say thank you again to Regina. I really enjoyed this conversation. I told my wife the other day, I'm going to have to stop saying this at some point, but that was a really good conversation. I feel like every week it gets better and better. She's like, that's a good thing. And I was like, I think so, but I feel like I'm just sullying the conversation I had before by saying this one was so good. But I really hope that people found something they can take away and think on and challenge themselves to grow a little bit more. As always, I'm your host, Bruce Alexander. This has been Authentic on Air. Until next time, be yourself, love yourself. Bye.